Greetings, family, and welcome to Kimbunga Media. This is the Revolutionary Minds section with your host Stella B and
Medai,
representing Out of Noise podcast.
Yes.
We're here today to discuss the Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and in poetry form, we have been studying for the past month. For those of you who have just joined us for the first time, here's a little breakdown about what we do.
So, normally we have Nate the lyricist, who is the brainchild, this is a brainchild of Nate the lyricist. The Revolutionary Minds project is a brainchild of Nate the lyricist. Hopefully it can come through today, but essentially what it is that every month we study a African great, either from the motherland or the diaspora, and then we turn their lives into spoken word poetry that we then perform at Auntie Jean's African Culture Market, which happens every third Sunday of the month.
Yes, and so far we've done some great, powerful Pan-African human beings. We have studied the great Winnie Mandela. We've studied Steve Biko. We've also looked into Jean-Jacques Dessalines. We have studied the mighty and powerful Patrice Lumumba. Who else?
Jean-Jacques Dessalines.
I just said him.
Oh. You just said Patrice Lumumba.
I just said before that. I just said Jean-Jacques Dessalines. And I did my accent and everything.
Okay. I got lost in Patrice Lumumba.
Wow.
We have done Steve Biko.
I just said him as well. I said Steve Biko. We're live. Okay. So we've also done, let me just go through the list. As well as then we've done Assata Shakur. We have done Queen Amanirenas, or Kandake Amanirenas, who was a very powerful one. We've done the Queen Harriet Tubman, Booker T. Washington, and we're currently studying
Frank Critchlow.
We've done Frank Critchlow and Kwame Nkrumah.
We got to return back to Kwame Nkrumah.
And Thomas Sankara. So these are the powerful names that we've been studying. We studied for a whole...
Shakur.
I just said her.
Oh,
you are not tuned into me.
All these ones you've just said, you've not just said.
You literally are not tuned into me.
Okay.
Okay, so let's tune into each other. All right. So...
Okay, so you've covered everybody.
Yeah, we've covered everyone. I did say that. So yeah, every single one of these powerhouses we have studied for 3 weeks to a month. It's not really enough time because they are such amazing human beings who have done so much when it comes to the fight against our oppression. When I talk about our oppression, I'm talking about us as African peoples, the diaspora and those on the motherland. These figures have stood out. They've gone against the grain. They've spoken out. Kimbunga. We missed out Kimbunga. How did that happen? We also studied Kimbunga. They've gone against the grain. They have spoken out in a time where they've been subjugated and not supposed to. They have been, in consequence of that, they have been, a lot of them martyred. And earlier I was in the bathroom, I was thinking about Kimbunga herself, but I was also seeing how a lot of, apart from, Harriet Tubman and Assata Shakur and Queen Amanirenas, a lot of these individuals who went through a lot of torture and the most horrific outcomes in terms of how their lives are ended, they've been martyred. You might want to, and people might take this the wrong way, but I don't mean it in any other way than the poetic way it sounds, because Kimbunga was crucified, and so was Patrice Lumumba, and so was Thomas Sankara, and so, and that is, but what happens there, because Jesus Christ, what's his name, is forever and forever and forever, and so are these individuals. you try and kill them off, they come to us. We are now studying them. We are now giving them the space to be heard again, once again. So it backfires. Like a martyr is just that. It's a bane to the system. They don't want you to be studying all these greats and being inspired, because that's what stories do. They inspire us to be great. They make us think differently from the grain and believe in ourselves. So we've been powerfully impacted by all these stories. When we journeyed into Harriet Tubman, the poetry that emerged from that, from all of the poets that take part in the Garvey Village poets. So did you talk a little bit about the Garvey Village poets?
No.
Okay. Do you want to? Shall I?
Well, it's basically anybody that wants to come through to Auntie Jean's African Culture Market and perform the poetry there. Essentially, anyone who wants to study with us is a Garvey Village poet. Essentially.
Yeah. So if you're into your words and you write secretly to yourself, this is a chance to share your thoughts in poetry form. After learning about these powerful greats, you then put it into poetry form, and then you can share it at this platform which has been given us by the wonderful Auntie Jean. Auntie Jean's African Culture Market turns 10 years old this October, as they celebrate the 3 heavyweight kings, which is a part of the event which has been happening every October, which is Black History Month, so called.
In the UK.
In the UK here. And during that we have the almighty, the 3 heavyweight kings. That just speaks for what the title is. We have Robin Walker, who is a great and powerful author. In fact, they're all 3 authors, aren't they now? They've all got books out. He wrote a classic, a history book called When We Ruled. He's written many books, and including this co-written book by Robin Walker and John Matthews called Ancient Science and the Technology from Ethiopia and the Rest of Africa. So these are the kind of books that Robin Walker provides us to look through as we are studying these sorts of histories that are hidden from us. We also, on that occasion, have Andrew Mohammed, the investigator, who is prolific in motivational speaking and also working with young children to create a generation ahead that is just, their starting line is way ahead, because they always try to set us back as Black people. So we big up and hail up Robin Walker, and we big up and hail up Andrew Mohammed. And last but by no means least, Tony Warner as well. So he comes on as part of the 3 heavyweight king trio, and he is the creator of Black History Walks, which is walking us diaspora through the city of London to different areas where we don't realize how far back our history goes it's embedded in the walls of what's been built up in London in terms of the contribution of the act of enslavement of our people, providing immense wealth to build guilds and all sorts of powerful institutions that lasted 100+ years as the result of that incredible amount of wealth that was generated of the blood of our people. So we learn so much from all of them.
From Tony Warner. And to add real quick, Tony Warner also has film sessions and most recently film breakdowns. Oh, films like screenings.
Yes.
And then sometimes there'll be
at the BFI.
Q&As and such on the panel. And most recently, the added development to the Black History Walks is a helicopter ride over some of the spots where there has been Black contributions in London. So yeah, check blackhistorywalks.co.uk.
Yeah, check that out. You can also check out Robin Walker's website.
The Black Secret.
The Black Secret.
Yes.
The Black Secret.
Black Secret Education. Yeah. I believe off the top of my head. But if you type in Robin Walker, the Black Secret, it will come up on the Google.
And the investigator is
yes.
Andrew Mahon. Please check all those brilliant.
Who has we should really mention the Royal Sankofa Estate.
Yes, in Gambia. Well done. He he and his lovely lady Adele have built the dream. They're in Gambia and they've created the Sankofa Estate. They've taken young people from here, from the Wyla and Lila movement, which is the Young Leaders Academy that he is a part of. They left. They were like, bye. You guys can stay here in this London. We're going. And yeah, they're in Gambia right now doing the works. They're building a school. Oh my gosh, just big up to everybody, big up. And to Auntie Jean, we bring it back to her because she has housed them. And 10 years ago, we went and we were like, because I kept seeing Auntie Jean. I was like, what's this Auntie Jean's? What's this Auntie Jean's? So I was like, let's go. We finally went. And that day we saw the Three Heavyweight Kings and we were hooked from there. So it's really, really great that Nate the Lyricist has added this new dynamic, and we really invite all you creatives, all you people that are just interested in history, just come down, share your thoughts, learn, give some black pound to the market stalls. It is a market. You get some good food. You also get the exotic pharmacy, which is basically healthy fruit and healthy fruit that is from our parts of the world. So you get your Boro banana, you get your coconuts, jelly coconuts, you get mangoes, soursop, all the things that are in season you can get at Auntie Jean's. And yeah, while you're there, you can support the Black Pound, which is an initiative that the great Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, that's what he was about. Self-empowerment, financial empowerment, economic empowerment, and which is a massive key factor in helping us lift ourselves up out of the oppression that we have faced at the hands of white supremacists and their regime, their continuous efforts to bring us down. They cannot.
Yeah, all of that. So you got the roundup of why we're here. If you haven't heard or tuned into previous episodes, please do. Just type in Revolutionary Minds, Kimbunga Media, and you will see the ones that we've gone through so far since we've been on this platform. So give thanks to Brother Shakara for this platform as well. So with all that said, today is the day we discuss the Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Garvey lives. Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Garvey lives.
Hey, come
on. Shout out to the Alkebalan revivalist movement for that adage there. Basically it is. We couldn't do the month of Mosiah. We couldn't pass by the month of Mosiah, and we called the month of Mosiah. If you're on this channel, you would know that the month of Mosiah is August. We reclaim this month that we're currently in as Mosiah in honor of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, because his Earth Strong is actually tomorrow on the 17th. And so it was fitting for us to do Revolutionary Minds focused on Marcus Mosiah Garvey, as decided by Nate. And yeah, it's all interconnected because we have the Garvey Village to go in on that. That is one thing we didn't really go in about.
Yeah,
the Garvey Village essentially is a brainchild of Auntie Jean. Auntie Jean is a umbrella to the Auntie Jean's African culture market, and essentially it is a for us by us community hub. So what we want is a building in the UK and around the world, really. There is a breakfast club actually begun, the Garvey Village Breakfast Club for the elderly in Jamaica. But what we want in the UK is a for us by us hub that services our people from youth to elder. That's the vision, and it is a Garvey vision. So everything this month is about Garvey, and we're contributing poetically to it. Now, this is a conversation about Marcus Mosiah Garvey. At the moment, it is just us two. Hopefully, some of the other poets that are involved can jump in if they are available or around. But we are going to go in about the Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who's essentially a prophet.
Yeah, a powerful prophet. So we found this great speech, and we really actually wanted to play it just before starting, and hopefully if Shakra is listening, or and there is a possibility of downloading it or putting it up, it's the speech of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the one that you can actually hear him speaking, and we've been listening to it for the past 2 weeks straight, and what we noted was the need for everyone to still hear that speech in 2024, because the incremental shifts and changes have not been enough to change our circumstances that we find ourselves in, with the lack of self-knowledge. We're still not emancipated from the mental slavery. We're not. A lot of our people. What was that?
It's so live.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a flash.
That was crazy. A lot of us still continue to be. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. To be roped up in the narratives that are set for us. A prime example is the current state of affairs that's happening in South Africa. We have heard, the great division amongst us when it comes to, so a scenario where they had this massive competition, which is all about Miss South Africa, and the entrance of Miss South Africa is the Rainbow Nation. Okay, this was what was created, a concept that was created after Nelson Mandela was freed, and they made him president as almost like a tokenized, idea. Really, it was to set about this new kind of version of what South Africa has become, because that place, that Zulu nation, that whole energy has been fight the oppressor, fight the white man, fight against them, sort of trying to dominate and take over our people, our land, our culture, our tongue, our way. And it was current enough for us to witness, worldwide what was going on. A lot of it was displayed in America. So a lot of Americans have an affiliation to South Africa because they've heard of Nelson Mandela, Winnie Mandela. They know the story, more so than they'll hear of Steve Biko or, all of the other prolific fighters. But when Nelson Mandela was freed, the political nature of it has meant that there was some compromises that had to be made or were made. And the result is this Rainbow Nation idea, this kind of, we all kind of get along and, it's all very beautiful and la-di-da. But in reality, you've got a version of an England over there. You've got the minority running the majority in what should be a black nation. And it makes zero sense. That was fought against in Jamaica at a point, and it needs to be reignited in South Africa as well, because what we've seen, they have their own individual places of stay. There's where it's whites only.
White only towns.
White only towns. You can name them probably.
Orania is one.
There's more than one, is what we discovered.
Apparently there's four, but one of them is called Orania, and it's a white only town
where they have their own currency and it's all guarded up, and and obviously it's doing better than the rest of other parts.
It's just mad. It's crazy. Like, it's just that it exists is absolutely mind-boggling. It's absurd, really. And as Stella saying, the Rainbow Nation of South Africa is not really that, is it? It's a continuation under a different name. It's neo-colonization, and it's what the whole entire continent suffers from. But the relevant point of why you've brought this up is due to the mental enslavement of our people.
Yeah.
So even in the motherland where they are the majority, because in a place like England, for example, oftentimes we say we don't have power because we're the minority, right? And we have to cede because there's a white majority. And there's a certain level of acceptance that we have due to the fact that there is this that we are a minority. But in South Africa, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite. They're the majority.
But they still have, we are the majority, and they are the minority, yet they have the control. So everything is about the mind. And that's only able to happen because our mind is controlled to a certain degree, or to a large degree, as a collective mass. And you had 100 years ago, you had walking this planet, Mosiah Garvey, who fought to free the minds of our people. But it wasn't just that. He wasn't just an activist. I remember maybe this time last year, or not this time last year, at some point last year, I was on Clubhouse, and the topic of discussion was Marcus Garvey. And it was our people discussing him. And the
I remember this.
Ignorance with some parts of him, or the mischaracterization of him, I found quite disappointing at the time, because basically they framed him as an activist, and that in and of itself is not what I'd have an issue with per se, but he was much more than an activist, much more. In fact, there's different modes of thoughts of how we gain liberation or equality, right? And some of our people have fought to be equal. So we, in the West, we are, some of us are fighting for the system, for the establishment to accept us equally to the ones who are the dominant, right? And there's another mode of mentality that basically says, do for self, for us, by us. And that is what Mosiah Garvey was about. He wasn't on the thing of protesting the powers that be to treat us better, to treat us equally, or even to delve into the legalities of what they're doing. He was about upliftment of ourselves. And it's a very important distinction to be had. It's a very important distinction to be made about the mentality behind what he did and what he actually achieved. Also, I was disappointed of the lack of knowledge of what he actually achieved, and the hyper focus, and we do this a lot as a people, the hyper focus on certain failures or flaws, right? So somebody makes a mistake or something goes wrong, there's a hyper focus on that, as if that is the reason why something wasn't successful, as opposed to the actual reality of the difficulty of making it happen, versus the intense level of literal sabotage of what you're actually up against. So there's a challenge of actually making something happen in and of itself, right? If you want to start up a business and make the business successful, for example, there are challenges that come with that alone. If we're doing mathematics, if we're doing a formula, if you're Pan-African, if you're an African, if you're African for Africans, with no apology, and you want to set up a business, for example, you have all the challenges that come with setting up a business, plus an intense level of attacks that come from the system, because the system does not want Black African prosperity. It's just a fact. And at this stage here now in 2024, we can see that Marcus Garvey was absolutely right in the endeavors that he pursued. And the unfortunate thing for us, and the reason why in 2024 we can see that we are in various means of struggle is because at various different points over the past few decades, we've fallen into the idea, the trap, that because the legislation has been passed, we are now being treated equally. Because legislation has been passed, we have now got a better standard of living. When you actually unpick it and you look into their statistics, you can see nothing can be further from the truth.
Nothing can be further.
And you can also see when you actually look into your lived experience as well,
right.
how over the past few decades, it actually looks and feels like things move and operate in cycles. So there's a push and pull relationship going on here, where we make some steps forward, and in fact, we can say that we've been in a very, very small cycle. So George Floyd happened, if everyone can recall, when George Floyd was unceremoniously murdered and caught on camera and then blasted everywhere. There was an outcry, and a global outcry against that. And there was like, all right, things must change. And that was a global thing. For the first time, I think in my lifetime, there was an acknowledgement of the oppressive system upon an African people globally, right? And industries that were industries across the world that affect us, there was an acknowledgement of that. Now, by 2024, in a 4-year period, which is a very short space of time, that empathy has completely gone. And now we have, in that time, we've seen the rise of the right. So in the UK, that's culminated in the past couple of weeks, in fact, of racist attacks, not just against Black people, against Muslims as well, but against Black people. We've seen it in sport, flagrant, blatant forms of racism against Black people. In America, obviously, United States of America, you've got the rise of the right there too, under the flag of Donald Trump, or the representation of Donald Trump. You have it in Europe as well, across the board. So we can see in just a 4 year... And
South Africa as well.
And in South Africa, of all places.
Of all places.
And you can see in just a 4-year time span how things have literally gone worse than they were 15 years ago. The
system is maintained. It's a maintained thing, and that's why the reason we're bringing this up into talking about 2024 is because in Marcus Mosiah's time, he was born in 1887. This is 3 years after the Berlin Conference.
Yes.
Right? And he died in 1940. So he's in a time of modernity, he's in a time of change and shift in technology, and all of those things meant that he had access to traveling. The speech that we spoke of earlier was captured. We're able to hear his voice speaking on the empowerment of African people, acknowledging who we are and our roots as African people. He spoke differently publicly, but we also learned during our study that there were others who were doing this around the same time. And we also, as we mentioned earlier, studied Booker T. Washington. So there were others who were Pan-African in mindset, who maybe the term wasn't coined in the same way, but it's the same meaning. Essentially, they were harking to, extending to Africa, like drawing that line back, connecting back or forward to Africa and to the motherland. But he was the loudest, it was as a very, very strong resonance with how he spoke about that, which has lasted and blasted through the century that he's lasted.
It was the loudness, it was the fortitude, it was the platform, and it was his actual achievements.
Yeah.
And
but just quickly,
go on.
I just wanted to shout out Anthony McPhail. Yeah. Welcome to watching us. This is the Revolutionary Minds. We are talking about Marcus Mosiah Garvey this month. We'll be performing poetry about Marcus Mosiah Garvey on Sunday, the 18th of Mosiah Month at Auntie Jean's African Culture Market. So big up yourself for being in attendance and watching. We welcome you to the show. And you are saying
in my home state of Louisiana, there were over 90 UNIA chapters at the organization's height.
That's big. And yeah, we you know, we've got to shout out that. So what was the UNIA? We're going to talk a bit about all of that, but I do want to put some order into it, and I do want to go over a little bit of his background for those who don't know.
Go on.
So we'll do it together. So
okay.
He was born.
Okay, so 100 years before I was born. In 1887 in St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born. He was one of 11 children, but only 2 survived. Him and his elder sister survived into adulthood. And
wow.
So basically, I'm just going to read off some facts. You had something you wanted to read off as well?
His father is of the same name, so he's Junior, Marcus Garvey Jr. And I believe his father had the same name, and he was a stonemason. His mother was a domestic servant, so they came from, humble beginnings. He traveled and worked in several Latin American countries before relocating to London at a point where he studied at Birkbeck College. That is a university in London. And he worked as a messenger and handyman for African Times and Orient Review, a journal that emphasized Pan-African nationalism. I believe he learnt about press in Jamaica before he traveled. I believe he had a job in as an apprentice in the press works, and that's where he learned the skill of making newspapers and stuff like that.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I think he worked as a child. I think at around 14, he was working with his uncle, and that's where or a family member, and that's where he learned originally how to do it. But yeah, I'm just gonna read off. Did you have any more you want to read off?
Well, this skips a lot, so go.
Okay, right. So this is from Black History Studies. Shout out to them. They have 25 facts about Marcus Mosiah Garvey. One of them we've already read. I'm just going to go through the 25, and we can, or at different points, we can just we can chat about ones that stick out. So Marcus Mosiah Garvey's first wife was Amy Ashwood Garvey. They married in New York in 1919, but divorced in 1922. Amy Ashwood was a very active Pan-Africanist, social worker and activist for women's rights. She was also a creative. She was also an artist. She created plays. She was friends with the likes of Paul Robeson. If you don't know about Paul Robeson, please check him out. He was another powerhouse, an extremely gifted human being, but unapologetically African.
Yeah.
Was Paul Robeson.
No.
So there's reference in a interview where he spoke, and he said no doubt about his pride in being an African. So yeah, check out Paul Robeson. But yeah, she was graduates of them and there. And
powerhouse. C.L.R. James, writer of Stolen Legacy as well.
Yes.
That was the crucial movie. But she also co-founded the UNIA as well, alongside Marcus Garvey. I don't think that's written there.
No. And then you have his second wife, Amy Jacks Garvey, who they married in 1922. And she originally was his personal secretary, and she played key roles, organizational roles in the UNIA, and was instrumental in teaching people about Marcus Garvey after he had died. She had 2 sons by him, Marcus Garvey Jr. and Julius Winston Garvey. Julius Winston Garvey has, of the recent years, been talking about his father's legacy. And I believe he'll be at the Royal Sankofa Estate this December, I think, which we did mention earlier, Andrew Mohammed and Lady Ma'at's endeavour. So, you know, if you can get yourself to the Gambia, you get yourself to the Royal Sankofa estate, you can actually meet the child of well, it's elder really, but the child of Marcus Mosiah Garvey and Amy Jacks Garvey. Both of them actually, something to say about both the Amy Garveys is that they were both profound speakers and they were intellects themselves. So they could walk shoulder to shoulder with such a titan as Marcus Mosiah Garvey because they had very, very similar minds.
Just to note as well, she was 17. Sorry, Amy Ashwood Garvey was 17 when she met Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and he was 27. There was a 10-year gap between them, and then there was only a 8-year gap or 7-year gap between Amy Jacks Garvey and Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Okay, yeah. And Amy Jacks, yes, she kept his legacy alive, Marcus Garvey's legacy alive through the books that she wrote.
Garvey and Garveyism is one
yes.
of the ones where it's the philosophies. Is that another one? The philosophies of Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was able to put down all of those teachings, the speeches, what he was all about, the autobiography essentially of Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Yes, and so yeah, they profound speakers within their own selves, profound intellects within their own selves, and yeah, they are worth delving into. Their lives are worth their lives are worth delving into. Also,
just all on their own, they're prolific
themselves,
right?
Yeah.
It's a study. You can get a book by Nzinga Asata called "The Women in the Garvey Movement," which breaks down the women in the Garvey movement, of which half of the Garvey sign-ups of the UNIA were women. So if it's 6 million, then it's 3 million of them are women. So it's worth looking into. In fact, one of the people we're covering next month, the person we're covering next month is Ida B. Wells, who was an affiliate of the UNIA. So.
And to mention about Amy Jacks Garvey is that yeah, she was when Marcus was in prison, she led the UNIA, so she also kept it alive when he was in prison. Another fact is that Garvey came to England in 1912, and he worked at the offices of the African Times and Orient Review journal under the leadership of Jew Muhammad Ali, the famous black nationalist and journalist at the time, and was the African Times was the first political journal produced by and for black people ever published in Britain. It was produced during 1912 and 1913 and 1917 to 1918 on a monthly basis, as it was printed in Fleet Street in London. So there's a bit of deep knowledge as well. And for context, people might overlook this, but essentially at that time in 1912, how a lot of people view of the United States of the past 40, 50 years, that was England. That was the United Kingdom. That's how dominant this, or probably even more so, the British Empire was. So London was a real hub, and certain things like this was done there. Afterwards, Marcus Garvey returned to Jamaica, and with help of an associate called Enos J. Slowly and 4 others, including Amy Ashwood, he created the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, the UNIA-ACL. And it launched on the 1st of August 1914, which is Emancipation Day in the British ruled Caribbean. The first UNIA division was formed in New York in May 17th, and within a month, the organization had 2 million members all over the United States.
2 million!
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
How long was it?
In the first
month.
Yeah.
In 1 month, 2 million people.
Mm.
Like, yo, this is so I'm trying to figure out codes and sciences in this world. And there's a prolonged thinking that things must take a long time. And I think that's part of a trick. When it comes to good things have to take 50, beyond our lifetime, really. Beyond lifetimes, generations, before we can see some sort of form of good. When it comes to bad things, it can happen instantly. Mosiah Garvey and the UNIA movement proved that things can happen very rapidly in a positive way. So in a month, they had 2 million members all over the United States. By 2020, which is in a 3-year period, the UNIA had 1,100 chapters in 40 countries around the world, including UK, Cuba, Panama, Costa Rica, Ghana, and as Anthony
Louisiana
Fell said, in the state of Louisiana, there was 90 alone.
Wow.
Stella put out the official number that they like to give at its heights, which is 6 million. But we know that it was a lot higher than that. And by our count, it is actually 11 million members that the UNIA had at its heights. And that was by 1926. So in a 9-year period, it had grown from conception to 11 million people. I mean, so when I was saying earlier about this activist notion and the sort of downplaying of his achievements, we're going to go through more, but just that alone, you need to just like sit with and be like, and just really think about how that actually happened and the profound nature of that actually happening. To be able to have 11 million people as a part of the UNIA ACL in 40 different countries. So global movement, essentially, and we're all interconnected. In 1918, to mention, of course, this one's an obvious one, but it is the largest Black organization in history, with 11 million members. We have yet to come anywhere close, not anywhere close to that level of membership, interconnected beyond borders since. And that's what we really got to work on, because at this point right now, we're working almost from ground zero in comparison to an 11 million global force. In 1918, the UNIA created the Negro World, and it quickly grew from being a weekly into a worldwide phenomenon and peaked with a peak circulation of 200,000. So 200,000 newspapers being circulated in a week. It featured reports from the UNIA chapter, poetry, literary excerpts, a woman's page, and commentary on global events significant to Black people. It had sections in Spanish and French. Colonial authorities feared the Negro World, and it was banned in many countries such as Belize, Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica, and several African countries. Garvey and other Black activists were partly inspired by the Irish movement for independence from the English rule, and thus named the UNIA headquarters Liberty Hall after Liberty Hall in Dublin, Ireland, which was the symbolic seat of the Irish Revolution. The Liberty Hall, the UNIA one, had a seating capacity of 6,000. It was dedicated on July 27th, 1919. Garvey held nightly meetings at the Liberty Hall that drew up to 6,000 people at a time. I mean, like when you're hearing these numbers, it's mind blowing. Again, we're yet to reach those kind of numbers of the people that are just interconnected, engaged, locked in. Marcus Mosiah Garvey was truly something special. For the entire month of August 1920, Marcus Garvey's UNIA-ACL organization held its first international convention in New York City. Most events were held at the New York Liberty Hall. Its biggest events were held at New York City's world-famous Madison Square Garden. An estimated 25,000 Black people attended the convention from all around the world. Delegations from 25 African countries were in attendance as well. This is just so important, such an important piece of information. I want us to think about 1920. And in the 20s, what are the images? What are the narratives? What are the stories of how African people are living around the world? What are the narratives? What are the depictions? What are the stories behind how Africans are living in the United States? Do we even have a picture that this possibly could even be happening? The convention adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Negro Peoples of the World, which is one of the earliest and most complete documents advocating human rights and detailing the abuses against Black people worldwide. The document made demands such as the freedom of Africa for the Negro people of the world, the condemnation of the term "nigger," and stipulation that Negroes be spelled with a capital N, no taxation without representation, equal treatment before the law, the condemnation of segregation and lynching. Next fact, Marcus Garvey launched the UNIA's first major commercial venture, the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation in New York in 1919. The goals of the corporation were to establish an efficient mode of transportation, communication, and trade among Black people worldwide to enhance the stature, self-image, and pride of these communities. The public invested in the corporation by purchasing stock shares at $5 each. This is a genius mind. You know what I'm saying? The corporation purchased its first ship, the SS Yarmouth, in September 1919. It was later unofficially renamed the SS Frederick Douglass after the African American abolitionist. The Yarmouth proceeded to sail for 3 years between the US and the West Indies as the first, or the Caribbean, as the first Black Star Line ship with an all-Black crew and a Black captain. In 1920, Garvey established the Negro Factories Corporation and offered stock for African Americans to buy. He raised $1 million for the project. I haven't, because I'm doing these facts out here, I at some point when I got a chance, I will convert that, or you can convert it yourself actually and see actually how much is $1 million in today's money, and that will give you a grasp of how much he was able to generate. He wanted to produce everything that a nation needed so that African Americans could completely rely on their own efforts. It generated income and provided jobs by its numerous enterprises, including a chain of grocery stores, restaurants, steam laundry, tailor shop, dressmaking shop, millinery store, clothing, fashion, hats, accessories, etc., a publishing house, and dolls factory. Everything was thought of. We mentioned Booker T. Washington earlier because we studied him, and Booker T. Washington.
So, yeah.
Go on.
Booker T. Washington was a huge influence on Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Unfortunately, he didn't get to meet him because Booker T. Washington was potentially was killed, but he died. He died of a stroke in his 50s before Marcus Garvey reached America. But part of what Booker T's amazing Tuskegee, what are they called, the Tuskegee? No, not the Tuskegee Institute, but the great group of them. He had a powerful powerhouse group, and they were able to ensure that immigrants were allowed from the part of the world where Mosiah Garvey comes from to enter the American country.
But not just there, not just Jamaica. It was actually Africans in general.
Yeah, so because of that, Marcus Garvey was able to come to America, which is part of the huge history that we're talking on now. But he studied him, and they had letters exchanged to one another as well.
The relationship.
Booker T had built a huge respect for Marcus Garvey, and obviously Marcus Garvey was very, very enthralled by the ideas and the achievements, such as 44 industries running self-sufficiently at the hand of the Tuskegee Institute. So we think of this Tuskegee Institute as this educational university, I guess, in our terms, in terms of as the UK would call it, but actually was more like a
self-sustaining project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one that taught academics, but also craft and
agriculture and all the essentials needed for life. For example, the very bricks were made by the hands of the people within the institute. So it's very, very powerful stuff, but up to 44. So then when we go into Marcus Garvey now, taking that and running with it, that plus a whole bunch of other teachings and influence. Of course, he harks back into history a lot. He very much learned from Noble Drew? That know thyself history is so important as well, because it shows you what you can do. And he, like I said, took from Booker T and ran with it. So that's a whole different level of.
The Tuskegee Institute in and of itself was completely self-sustaining, but Marcus Mosiah Garvey managed to make this a global movement. And fundamentally, the difference between the two of them is the way they present. Achievements is a difference, but also the way they present. Booker T. Washington, it is important to note that it was been mischaracterized, and we did address this, but mischaracterized as an accommodationist. And it's basically because his chess game, his strategy was, look, we'll leave you with your politics. That whatever white people want in terms of politics, have it. What we want to do is focus on ourselves, build up our economic strength. That's our focus. And Marcus Garvey had a similar mentality, but the energy was just different, right? And the way he talked, the way he vocalized, it wasn't playing. He obviously was playing some form of chess, but he was a line like I like to use is bold and brazen, blatantly blazing. He was that. So he had literally no fear whatsoever.
And he was harking back to Africa in a real loud and proud way. There wasn't any tentativeness when it came to Africa. He was like, that's the place we need to all look to. He wasn't, and it was misconstrued that he was saying that everyone should go back to Africa. That wasn't his point. His point was that it's an option that is a very viable one, and that we deserve, as a diaspora, to be looking to and connecting with our African brothers and sisters to make that the Mecca, the place, and get it back to what it once was.
It's a mental and spiritual connection above anything else. So you are wherever you are, but as long as you have that mental and spiritual connection back to the motherland and focus on empowering that place, then we're all going to be empowered. It's common sense when you actually break it down. The debates and the arguments against that is actually logical. The next fact, though, is in New York City alone, Garvey owned several buildings, owned a fleet of trucks, and had over 1,000 Black people working in his businesses. Marcus Mosiah Garvey's UNIA also operated in Phyllis Wheatley's hotel.
Phyllis Wheatley was a writer, prolific writer at the time, a poet.
Yes, recognised very much in the UK actually. I think she had a best-selling book here. I mean, I know I keep pausing at these points, but I just think these things are just too often just
swept under the carpet
or brushed over like it's not significant. 1,000 black people working in his businesses. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, to date, I cannot think of a single corporation that employs that many black people. As well as the fleet of trucks. Garvey's ultimate dream was for the independence of all African countries and the creation of a United States of Africa. And see, again, there's strange kickback against that in certain circles. Africa's not homogenous. Africa is got variety of different groups. Like, when people rebuttal the idea of the United States of Africa with that kind of talk there, I don't really understand it. And the reason why I don't understand it is because we should be aspiring for unity. Unity doesn't mean we all have to be exactly the same. Like, I'm not exactly the same with my brother, and we came from the same womb. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, but for the betterment of us, it is better that we are united, right?
It's like a fist, right? Better than five fingers
separated.
You need to be together to make that punch.
So the diversity in Africa should not be an issue. It should not be a thing as to why we can't. Oh, we can't. Why not? Why not? It's illogical. And that was Garvey's dream. And you know, people have got limited thoughts and limited way of being, and it's because they're stuck in the here and now. But over 100 years ago, this titan, this giant, this intellectual giant, this prophet, had a mindset of the United States of Africa. The UNIA embarked on a plan. All right, go ahead.
When I was a teenager, when I was like 18, I went to uni. I used to dream up these concepts of like t-shirts, basically. I loved like making acronyms and playing with words and wordplay and stuff like that. And I always used to have this vision of like the United States of Africa. This is before I knew anything about Marcus Garvey. I was not studied at all. I was a victim of the system in terms of wiping away or giving me zero access to these great people that we should all know about. But I used to dream about the concept of the United States of Africa. It was very, very strong for me. It was like, we need to have this t-shirt. There's no depth to it at the time. There's no like, you know, reason other than, yeah, it'd be cool. It's like later on in life, I'm just like, oh, wow. This is a concept that you know, this powerful man wanted. And you think about how these stories live on or pass on on a DNA level, and that kind of calling on harking to a story, because we're all living and existing within a storyline or several storylines. And yeah, these things will spring up in us, you know, even, and then find a way of getting you towards what's going to bring it out properly, you know, doing the proper study and understanding these great minds and how it could work. But yeah, t-shirts thing coming.
Yeah, you're definitely in sync, and maybe your connection to the great Marcus Mosiah Garvey is a lot deeper than you might realize. It's all spiritual.
I'll be like the Prince of Pan-Africanism who was here the other day.
Yeah,
I'm related.
What?
He's my great uncle.
He's related to Frederick Douglass, isn't it?
Oh yeah. That's it.
But yeah, you never know. But you're spiritually,
we are all related.
We are,
exactly.
But yeah, well, a quick side note is that if you are in London, you are listening and checking this out. If you are elsewhere and you're coming to London, or if you want to come to London, especially for this, Stella B right there, my queen, I'm so proud of her, my other whole, my twin flame. She has an exhibition right now at the Africa Centre depicting all these said greats that we have mentioned earlier. that we have discussed, that we have studied, that we've turned into poetry. Stella's also turned them into visual arts, and including in that, she's got artwork of Marcus Mosiah Garvey and Amy Ashwood Garvey and Amy Jacks Garvey that is so profound, and it really does connect. And there's one image where Marcus Mosiah Garvey is behind Stella B, and it just looks like he's I've got your back.
He's got my back.
It was that kind of look in his eyes, and the intensity of his eyes. And out of the art pieces right now, it's probably my favorite. Like Queen of Manoranus, and it's between the two. But that's a quick side note anyway. So the UNIA embarked on a plan to repatriate some black people from the United States and other parts of the African diaspora back to Africa. Liberia, a country established in 1822 by the American Colonization Society, was the intended geographical base of the UNIA's African colonization venture. That's obvious, right? The connection between Liberia and United States.
Obviously, you have to explain it.
Well, I'm explaining it.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's an obvious link once you know there's a connection there. And a lot of, actually, I do have to explain it because a lot of people don't know that there's that connection. So Liberia existed as a free nation because a lot of the freed enslaved people repatriated to Liberia. There are problems with Liberia because a part of the issues is that when the freed came back, they came back with colonial mentalities and thought they were better than the people who were actually on the land itself. Having said that, and so unity has been a problem there because of the mind. But having said that, it was an obvious place where the dreams of the UNIA could happen, because at the time, the rest of Africa, pretty much aside from Abyssinia in that time, was basically colonially owned, essentially. And as you heard earlier, the black countries around the world, including Ghana, were banning the Negro world from even reaching there. That was the power of the colonial masters.
Well, we hear that in some other news, W.E. Du Bois was responsible for that.
Oh?
Because he befriended the president of Liberia. Okay. And it said that, well, Marcus Garvey believes, or there's a belief that he influenced him to say that, yeah, don't.
Oh, okay, so Liberia blocked him as well?
Yeah, Liberia blocked Marcus Garvey's from
the Negro world?
Yeah.
The Negro world, they couldn't get to Liberia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently because, yeah, W.E. Du Bois. Yeah.
So, well, the next fact is about W.E. Du Bois. So the enemies that Marcus Garvey had was J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover actually kicked off his career through his
creation,
through his
spying
and his intention to stop the rise of the Black Messiah. That is what he was
created for,
his
like
job
an Agent
was.
Smith.
He was Agent Smith. He was Agent Smith, and this is the FBI, who J. Edgar Hoover is a legend of, actually. And his first mission was to stop Marcus Garvey and the subsequent Black Messiahs that were to come afterwards. You know, the likes of Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, anybody who was a potential threat to the establishment. And by threat, it literally anybody who was up for the upliftment and had the ability to uplift African Americans, this man was on. J. Edgar Hoover. Interestingly, Genius.com. Genius is a music platform. It's where you can find your lyrics. So any lyrics that you want to find, any song that you like, you want to find them, you go on Genius and you can find them.
All hip hop heads know
times out of 10.
Genius.
It started off as Rap Genius.
Yeah, Rap
and
Genius.
It just
Just
became
Genius.
Genius, and they took
It's
the
new
genius out of it.
Wikipedia.
Actually, they took the genius out of it, but they held the name anyway, because some of the songs on there are not Genius at all. But originally it started as a Rap Genius. But you know, anyway, on there you can find a letter from J. Edgar Hoover talking about Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and basically he's saying that we cannot find this. I think it was 1919 at the time, or 1920. They couldn't find anything that they could incriminate him with, but there was potential for them to find something on mail fraud potential. And it was, if you know anything about the Marcus Garvey story, it was mail fraud that basically sabotaged his whole endeavors, essentially, and it made him go to prison. So court, then prison, and then deportation.
I'm going to read a bit of it.
Go on.
Memorandum for Mr. Ridgely. I am transmitting herewith a communication which has come to my attention from Panama Canal, Washington office, relative to the activities of Marcus Garvey. Garvey is a West Indian Negro, and in addition to his activities in endeavoring to establish the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation, he has also been particularly active among the radical elements in New York City in agitating the Negro movement. Unfortunately, however, he has not yet violated any federal law whereby he could be proceeded against on the grounds of being an undesirable alien from the point of view of deportation. Darn. It occurs to me, however, from the attached clipping that there might be some proceeding against him for fraud in connection with his Black Star Line propaganda. And for this reason, I am transmitting the communication to you for your appropriate attention. The following is a brief statement of Marcus Garvey and his activities. It then goes on. Subject, a native to the West Indies and one of the most prominent Negro agitators in New York. He is the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. Guys, just know when you set up your foundation, your movement, your this, your that, these eyes are upon you. From now, this point till now, 2024, they watch what you're doing anytime you're moving. And if you're going to be moving 6 million plus people, of course.
11 million.
So he's founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. He is the promulgator of the Black Star Line and is the managing editor of the Negro World. He is an exceptionally fine orator. They had to acknowledge that. they had to say that because it's true. He's exceptional. Creating such excitement amongst the Negroes through his steamship proposition. In his paper, The Negro World, the Soviet-Russian rule is upheld, and there is open advocation of Bolshevism. Respectfully, J.E. Hoover. They say that's in the Rap Genius.
Can't see it.
You can't see it.
But yeah, if you type in genius.com, you type in Marcus Garvey, you can find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gonna find a little clip that they said about Amy Ashford Garvey, but carry on.
Okay. Yeah. So the FBI was on Marcus Garvey. Yeah, big up to Noire Films.
Big up.
It says, remember that the feds or government was intercepting mail and rewriting the letters to discredit Marcus Garvey. Monrovia, the capital of Liberia, was named after former President James Monroe.
Okay.
Absolutely. They were up in the ting. And this is what we have to acknowledge. Do you know what I'm saying? So when people want to come with their criticisms, they have to be in context. They have to be in context of what was actually happening. Stella just read out the letter that J. Edgar Hoover wrote. This is a letter of concern, right? It's a letter of concern. This man is a threat. This man is a threat to the establishment. We have to find something. We have to do something to get rid of him, basically. And there's something very, very powerful about Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Because of the way we've been told history, we just think that it is easy for our leaders to be taken out, and it's not so. When you reach a certain level of prominence, your people have got your back. And what really hit me and connected in this past month of research was Queen Mother Moore, another legend within our
Oh wow!
history.
Did you just see it?
No.
Oh wow! I was literally gonna bring it up.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go on.
Okay. Well, I was gonna bring it up. Then I was gonna bring up a second point, which was what I wanted to try and show you.
You know what I was gonna say, right? Though.
Yeah, that they had to listen. They were gangster. Okay. There's a beautiful clip of Queen Mother Moore when she's much older and she's explaining when Marcus Mosiah Garvey came to New York.
Right, I can't remember.
Came to do a speech.
Yeah.
And he was prevented from speaking by the establishment. Okay, so they suddenly cancelled, and he had to apologise to everyone. You know, they cancelled me from doing my speech.
The police are stopping.
The police were stopping them, but the conspirator was, he was saying the manager, you know, had allowed this to happen.
The mayor.
The mayor. And so she then goes on to say, so they brought their gats. They brought their guns, and she breaks down the type of guns and everything. She's like, I had that type of gun. And basically they all were gatted up. They all had their weapons, and they came to the space, and he was about to speak, and the police came in and flooded in, and they tried to stop the speeches from going on. And she said shots were fired.
Whoa.
The shots were fired into the air, like they
were ready.
They were ready, and they were like, you were saying, and so the police all left. And then he did his speech from beginning to end and riled the crowds, and they were all, you know, when they say he is a distinguished orator, he was I was saying tonight, the equivalent of him is a modern day, like, I don't know, who did I mention?
I don't know.
No, as in not in the equivalent to Marcus Garvey, but in terms of fandomship, in terms of how many people were like fanatical about Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Oh, like MJ.
I don't know if he was an MJ.
Yeah, MJ.
Well, yeah, like an MJ. It was like modern day, just because them days the entertainment wasn't like, oh, just the music alone and stuff like that. That people wanted to, and do still now, I believe still people do want to be moved by, you know, high-spirited knowledge, information, improvement of self. Like when we went to see the Earn Your Leisure brothers when they were doing their thing in the Royal Albert Hall, that thing was packed, sold out. That's people going there. It wasn't just for like a rave or dance or anything. That's going there for knowledge. And so in those days of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, like, I guess there wasn't those global superstars like that, but there was.
Well, yeah, he did. Yeah,
he did have them.
Yeah.
But he was one. He was one with that speech, the famous speech. Listen to the way the women are reacting. And there was another clip in one of the documentaries where the woman was like, women would be throwing themselves, or like throwing their panties and stuff. Like, I was like, wow, this is it's kind of, it's just different, like a different need from the audience. Like what people were seeking was deeper and richer, to compared to now, like how much of the brainwashing that they've had to do to stop another Messiah, Marcus Mosiah Garvey from coming forward again, even though they keep springing up. You know, you've had your moments with your Tupacs and all these people, but they've never reached that level, and that's been because the active sabotage. Yeah, they don't want that.
Concerted effort. stop it.
To stop that rise.
And this is what we battle until today. Really.
Till today, and yeah, in one of the reports I was reading about Amy Ashford Garvey, who I don't know if it said it in there, but she did jump in front of a bullet for Marcus Garvey. When she also had a bout of looking after things as well, and she had an FBI report on her too. But you do carry on because I'll find it.
Okay, so yeah, J. Edgar Hoover was stop the rise of the Black Messiah, and since then they've been on it. They've worked on that. Malcolm X was another one, the Messiah that they acknowledged, and progressively over the decades they haven't had to do the assassinations because as just said, there's not been an individual or group that have reached these heights yet, and that's because they've learned how to misdirect the masses into things that are more distracting, and then also present a world, even though it's not actually real in real forms, where our people are thinking that things are better, and there's no need for people that can speak up for us. But yeah, joining us now is Blue Lotus.
Yay!
Hey guys. Hi.
Good to see you. Oh yes, hair's looking fresh. Ready for the travel. Come on.
Thank you. Good fun. I made it there.
Steaming on the platform like that for.
Too hot. How are you?
How's it going? I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good.
Oh.
I still ain't packed yet. I still started packing. It was supposed to start last night. It's just like, anyway.
Oh, it's a bit low.
Oh.
Also you. Is your thing quiet? That's
Can you hear me okay? Testing 1, 2.
Ooh.
Can you hear me okay?
You just sound a bit low. Is it us maybe? Let's see.
Oh, it is us.
It's us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just saying I was going to start packing last night and I didn't. I thought I'd be home early today to start packing today. And I just got in, so. And I know
it's going to be an all-nighter.
No, it's not. I'm going to bed after this. Tomorrow is another day.
We'll get it done. It will be done.
But yeah, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Catch me up, guys. Hi, guys. Hi, got TV family, Kimbunga Media family. Hi, everybody.
Yes, we've got people watching. We've had someone who spoke to us, Anthony McPhail. He was saying in the home states of Louisiana, there were up to over 90 UNIA chapters, 90.
Wow.
At the organization's height. So that's just been breaking down the history of Marcus Garvey, just 25 interesting facts that was found on Black History Studies page. And then exploring it a little bit. And we're just talking about the J. Edgar Hoover, sort of infiltration and study of Marcus Garvey. And not able to find much information on him, but the whole idea that the FBI was created off the back of this whole we must not allow the Black Messiah to rise.
Okay.
And the COINTELPRO was invented then.
Yeah. Okay. And then just quickly, just like the achievements such as like basically he in New York alone, he had 1,000 Black people working for his business. He had enterprises such as grocery stores, restaurants, steam laundry, tailor shop, dressmaking shop, millinery store, which provided clothing, fashion, hats, accessories, a publishing house, and a doll factory.
Like, a black doll factory as well.
Very impressive, man.
Very impressive. And UNIA had 11 million people in its organization in 40 countries in a span of 9 years. It achieved that. And in the first month, they had 2 million members. So the first month they
just a month.
Just 1 month.
And when we try to recruit anything for something, it's like such a hell to try and do. But in a month, they had 2 million.
That's dope.
No internet, no, you know, that's what, just all word of mouth. And I guess newspapers.
Yeah. He's one, I'm so impressed by him, you know, in so many ways. Like, he's just phenomenal. There's nobody like him since.
No.
Yeah, we were saying that as well. It's literally, I was saying how he was like, of that time, he was like a Michael Jackson of that time, because we were talking about Queen Mother Moore and what she had said in that story. Did you watch the clip that Nat posted where she was like, they all had guns to protect him and to stop the police trying to stop him from speeching? And how much they loved Mosiah Garvey, like that's how much they needed him to speak. They were prepared to go to jail, like, for blasting with guns.
And and even he was massively popular, and so he would have nightly events at the Liberty Hall, which is a place where they had their events, and it would be fill up 6,000 people per night. And then, you know, Madison Square Gardens, where have there in one month, I think it was 1920. I think 1920. In this month, actually, the month of Messiah, in 1920, Madison Square Gardens, he attracted 5,000 black people from all around the world there for a convention. Like, so he was huge.
He was huge.
He was huge. He was absolutely massive. And it's just, we were just talking about the psychology of our people back then versus now. Now, we have those type of numbers for an artist, really, for a singer or whatnot, or a rapper. They will have those type of numbers. But anybody who's talking about anything of a certain note, 25,000 people.
Well,
Madison Square Gardens.
I was saying Jens, but it's funny because remember when the Earn Your Leisure brothers came and they packed out the Royal Albert Hall? I think it was last year. Earn Your Leisure. They talked.
Oh yeah. I was there.
So were we? Yeah. Oh my gosh, you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
So funny, but yeah, it was packed, and everyone like a music fest or anything like that. It was a festival about learning, about business.
Yeah.
I think people do want that. It's just that the norm has been made so not that I don't think most people go for that idea, but I do think it would be popular here as well, really, because people are trying to get out of the
rat race.
Yeah.
So before I ask you what have you learned so far, I just want to read off these quick facts, and not too many now to go. So as you're processing whatever we want to say, I'll just reel them off real quick.
So to be honest with you, August has been busy month for me. So I've started reading Race First. I started reading Philosophy of Opinions of Marcus Garvey, and I started reading Message to My People simultaneously, but I haven't even scratched the surface.
Okay.
But what I can say from what I've taken from him is just how impressive his mind was, how impressive his philosophy was, his ideals, his ideologies, and just what he was trying to create in terms of uplifting our minds, our psychology, and our position in society. It's just the drive and determination and resilience and fortitude that he had to keep going year after years after years and achieving so much despite the setbacks, despite the infiltration and the sabotage, so much. I mean, his trust must have been like, he had his trust broken so many times by people he thought he could trust, it turned out to be CIA, just so much. And even when they tried to sabotage him, he's still done so much impressive things. He's one of my favorite revolutionaries. I admire Marcus Garvey so much.
Yeah, I think we all feel the same way. Even Stella's depiction of him, like, I love it. I actually love it. It might be my favorite, and it is because of what you just said. Like, but yeah, I just want to read off the the other facts. Right, yeah. So we talked about J. Edgar Hoover as an enemy. W.E. Du Bois, unfortunately, we know the name. He was also a pain in the behind. Take it, you know, them old school. The pain in the behind.
Wasn't he a pain in the behind for Booker T. Washington too?
Yes.
Yeah. He was, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. But
He changed.
he towards the end of Booker T's life, and I think W. Du Bois. I think we learned that he went to the.
Yeah,
he applied.
He applied many times, and you know, Sister
Dr. Tyreen
Wright was breaking it down that it was a bit more complicated. Their relationship. He did respect Booker T. You know, but privately, so their public-facing relationship was different.
Yeah.
Remember, she was saying that. But yeah, it's complicated.
But publicly, the way he was against Marcus Mosiah Garvey was very, very poor, to say the least.
Well, he sabotaged the relationship that meant that the movement that was trying to get to Liberia, that was organised by Marcus Garvey, didn't happen because he got to be close friends with the president. So W.E. Du Bois went to Liberia and befriended the president there.
Badmouthed him.
And then so like when it was supposed to all happen, it no longer was happening. It was cancelled.
Okay.
And the other double strike.
The free strike.
The other double strike, yeah. But you know what? I'm not so like W. Du Bois. I'm not really so like he was just an agent. I think it's more complex than that. And but the other double strike, really and truly, was the Garvey Must Go campaign that he had going on with the NAACP. And
can you imagine?
And the NAACP was, you know, was it National African Coloured? I can't remember what the acronym stands for. But
National Association
for the
Coloured People. For the advancement of coloured people, yeah.
That still exists till today, and it's still quite.
Yeah, do you remember that? It was her face that
Rachel
Dolezal was the head of it.
But when you actually learn the roots of it, that's not that surprising.
No, there's probably been many
because because the European American was a part of it.
I think some of them were founders as well, wasn't they? Yeah. So when I learned that, the whole Rachel Dolezal thing suddenly made sense.
Yeah.
But in fact, she said she was a black woman and went around parading as a black woman. We digress. But yeah.
I reckon they probably had more than her, you know. I reckon she's the one that got blown up, but I reckon it's but not be shocked.
It's already compromised from my perspective, what I know so far is that W. Du Bois was very naive and has, I think Dr. Tyree Wright broke it down.
Yeah,
like
she was saying
the way he was raised, his environment, his mindset, he was an integrationist. And he wanted to work within the system, and we have that today, right? We have a lot of people like I'm British, for example. I'm British, and I want to be treated just like because our people have
it's within our rights, etc.
Within our rights and all that kind of stuff.
I get it, but it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. So yeah.
No, but my issue with them now, and it even exists today, is that their energy is more harder against people like us, for example, who are like do for self, than it is against the establishment, because the establishment, they want to appease, they want to
be a part of it.
Be a part of it, so they appease it. They are diplomatic. They find ways to try and cushion and soften what they do to be able to be a part of it. Whereas with us, we're sabotaging that, right? We're just because we're like bonfire that FUBU. So I feel like with W. Du Bois, it was like, you're ruining it, Garvey. Go, Garvey. Yeah. Go. Garvey must go. That kind of energy.
You're messing it up for the rest of us.
Yeah. that sort of, and it is, for me, even though I don't want to go too harsh on him, it's kind of cowardly. And he colluded with the US government, who did want Garvey out on that.
Yeah.
The next
And it
fact.
all takes that our own to kind of legitimize other people mistreating us, because it's almost like, well, if your own people don't like you for this reason, there must be a reason why why we should get you out, because your own people don't even like you, and that kind of exists till this day.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer, using your own against you. Sometimes they don't even need to do anything themselves. They just send one of us in to do it from within.
Exactly.
Because they're self-hate.
Because
they've got their self-hate.
And it's that sort of thing, like that. Have you listened to that speech, Marcus Garvey? It's like 17 minutes long.
Potentially, I can't remember.
Where he's just talking. He covers so many different bases.
I don't recall. I think so. Did he post it in the WhatsApp group?
You did. Okay.
I did. I said I was gonna.
I must have listened to it then. To it then.
Yeah. Okay. It's the one I said I've been listening to every single morning.
Oh yeah. That was one of the early ones. You posted it like in the beginning of the. Yeah. And so much has been posted since then. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't think there's many speeches, is there?
No,
we couldn't find any.
Not in terms of recordings.
Yeah.
But in there he talks about that's relinquishing the identity to nationality. So if you're in America, being I'm American. If you're here, I'm British, or wherever you are, and just having this one identity of being an African, and basically that is versus the idea of a W. Du Bois at the time, who wanted to be treated equally by the American establishment, right? And we still have that battle today, right? It's still that, like, people, I want to be treated equally by this establishment. That is my priority. That is who I am. I need being an African, for example, if I can be treated as British, born and bred British, treat me as I am British, versus do for self. We are Africans. We need to build up Africa. We need to have our own corporations. We need to have our own economy. We need to have our own everything. It's a different mentality. But that was W. Du Bois at that time anyway. And then, so the next fact, I'm gonna get through them real quick now. So the FBI established the COINTELPRO, which was the intelligence program specifically targeted at African Americans.
That's only needed to take down the Black Panthers, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. They I think they trialed it out them times and realized how effective it was. I thought, rinse and repeat for any other revolutionary organization that comes since, and I'm sure it still exists today.
100%.
Absolutely exists today, and it, essentially, as you just said, one of the FBI documents showed that the COINTELPRO program was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize the activities of Black nationalists, and all to prevent the rise of the Black Messiah. Hoover hired the FBI's first Black agent. So you see what I was saying about the whole attaching yourself to nationalities and stuff like that. In certain circumstances and situations, we will celebrate certain things as achievement, right? So the first one who got an MBE, oh my God. The first one who got knighted, oh my God. Meghan Markle being a princess, oh my God. Like these type of things, the first this, the first that in this establishment.
It's becoming part of the establishment. It's being accepted, you know? That's what it is.
And so this is not a point of celebration for us that J. Edgar Hoover appointed the first Black agent, because that first Black agent basically was used to infiltrate the UNIA. That agent was called James Wormley Jones.
Yes, that is so funny.
James Wormley Jones was referred to as code number 800, and one of Garvey's close confidants, Herbert Bulon, was a spy for the FBI known as HB 138.
That's what I'm saying about his trust being broken so many times. People closest to him, or who he thought were closest to him. And things about like how people in there sabotaging the boat and all that kind of thing, just mad.
Let me calm down.
Let
me calm down.
So after he had been deported and no, what he was telling us the other day actually about the issue with the mail fraud.
In terms of
that, basically it was one account.
Oh, it was Nate.
It
was 25.
Big up Nate, lyricist.
$25 or 25.
Yeah, for 20. So basically, Blue Lotus. But yeah, I'm gonna focus on your poetry name. So Nate was breaking down to us that it was $25.
That's what he went to jail for.
That's what he went to jail for.
But you know, they were trying to find something to catch him on, pin on him for years, and they just found the smallest thing and they used that.
Yeah.
Done him.
That was what the.
And I wouldn't even be surprised if that wasn't even a plant.
$25. $25. That's what got him. That's what got him in jail. That's what got him deported. For 25. That I was saying to Nate at the time, that could be passed off. And in fact, you know, like Apple and all these big, huge, major corporations, they do that kind of stuff in the sums of millions, and then they get charged a fine and they pay the fine, and that fine is probably worth 0.5% of the profits that they've made. And that's at the worst it can possibly get for them. At best, it's passed off as a clerical error. For $25, you could easily pass that off as a clerical error.
So is it? What we didn't ask Nate, was it an equivalent of $25 in this money today, or was that $25 and in that time that more looked like?
I was thinking the same thing. I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah,
it's $25 in their time, so that's probably what, like $200, something like that.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, it could have even been 2000, but it's still not a lot of money.
It's still not a lot, isn't it?
It's a clerical error.
Crazy.
Like, that's all it is. Like, you could. I mean, sorry, you can pass it off as a clerical error. Like, it's nothing. Yeah. It's nothing. But it was enough for them to use to be able to, right, that's it. We've got him. And I don't know if you heard him. Did I share it? I'm not sure if I shared the where he's talking about his experiences, and it's like 40 minutes long, and he's talking about the sabotage. You hear that one?
Not sure. I don't think so.
Okay.
I missed that one.
Do you remember?
Say again.
The clerical errors, and not clerical errors. The conversation where he's talking about 40 minutes long, and he's talking about his experiences and how he was sabotaged and how he ended up in prison, and he's talking about the court experience.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, yeah. From his own mouth.
Yeah.
And one of the people that was meant to, defend him, someone he'd known his whole career, got up in there and denied him. Like
Judas.
Judas proper did that moment, and yeah, he was saying he sounded so hurt. Yeah, he had a lot of people.
I can imagine he must have been very hurt throughout his time, because he was, a lot of, and he must have been very paranoid at some stage as well, because obviously you trust people, you let them close to you, they turn out to be traitors. And at what point do you let people close to you again?
And what you said earlier, the mental fortitude is just next level.
Yeah.
And what I was saying, that he represented himself in court. Basically, of course, right now we have a problem, a severe problem with the judicial system. But back then, you can only imagine. It was just like, it wasn't even relevant. Like, they didn't care about the facts. They didn't care what he revealed. he was a man of honor and principle, and he was speaking his truth. And of course, they didn't care about any of that. They cared about the fact that he was the Black Messiah and he needed to go. And that was evident in, I'm paraphrasing wildly because he didn't say that in verbatim, but essentially that it was like, we've got to get rid of him. And the jury, they did not give him a fair trial, essentially. And, you know, after that, in 1928, in his forced return back to Jamaica, he created the People's Political Party, which was Jamaica's first modern political party and the first of the Black majority. The party's manifesto called for official representation in the British Parliament, a minimum wage, land reform, a Jamaican university, judicial reform, a government-run electrical system, public high schools and libraries, and a national opera house. That was the People's Political Party that he had created in Jamaica. In an effort to rebuild the international influence of the UNIA, Marcus Garvey moved to London in 1935, and he continued to speak extensively, appearing frequently at the Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park. And basically how he had passed was from him reading the newspaper of his death.
His obituary. They had, and I'm like, man, this country's full of witchcraft. So he read about his death, and then he died from reading it. He suffered a stroke, isn't it?
Yeah, he suffered a stroke.
But he suffered several strokes around that time. He was a bit debilitated.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. But yeah, his influence, the last one, Elijah Muhammad, Farrakhan, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King.
You can hear Martin Luther King in that speech, that one that Nat posted. You can really hear it. It's
sort of sing-song type of stuff.
Yeah, that
of talk. It just.
Yes, I read that, or I watched a documentary that Marcus Garvey was inspired by a pastor in terms of his oratory style.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So when he first started giving speeches, he wasn't that great at it, and I think his first speech didn't go very well. Yeah. And then he went to, I think he was in this church and was really inspired by the oratory style of this particular preacher, and kind of adopted his technique, and then ever since then he was a great orator.
Wow. Yeah, the one where he talked about that was at Birkbeck College, wasn't it? The way he studied here in the UK, and he stumbled, he physically stumbled as well, like he fell to the ground.
Yes.
Yeah, the next time that was it. He was.
Yeah, that's what I love. That's just dope. Like, imagine that could have put anybody off. Most people would be like, I'm never going to do this again. He came back and made sure no one can ever say he's not a great speaker after that.
Yeah.
Again, just resilience in his mentality.
Great speaker. And yeah, it is empowering, because it kind of like, it does make you feel like anyone can, well, it's a choice. It just go, and a lot of the things that we want to achieve in this life is down to your level of willpower. And Marcus Garvey was on a whole different stratosphere to most of us.
That's big energy, like I will it, so it is, like, kind of thing.
No matter what, you're absolutely right. Like, in terms of 99% of people drop down, they're not going back on stage again.
Yeah.
But he was like raw, and I've been listening to that speech every single morning, and first of all, different points stick out to me at different mornings for whatever reason. But it's just like as Stella was saying, in terms of the sort of celebrity vibe. When he's talking, the cheers, the screams, like when he's punctuating certain points, when he's like,
they're like, they're screaming, and like, oh my god. In death I shall be the same. In life I shall be the
That
same.
one
In
R&B concert.
Yeah, listen. It's like, in life I should be the same. In death I shall be a terror. And they're like, like, whoa. It's so funny. All the way through. And then you hear punctuations that remind me of our Kebala revivalist movement as well. They're like, hit him, hit him.
Yeah.
136. No, this is 100 and something years old. Like, crazy.
The energy, and yeah, yeah, everything he says in that speech is just so profound. Like, there's different points that stick out to me, like the bit of being like not fearing death at all, and what Senator said, if death has any power at all, it will come back as a terror. It will come back as a plague or a pestilence, or the famous whirlwind. Like, I am a storm, essentially. I'm a force. I'm going to be coming for the enemies, and we will meet them in our prosperity. It was that kind of talk. It was just like, yo.
It's like, he's a Jamaican, because Jamaicans love to talk in proverbs like that.
Yeah.
When my granny was cussing us, she would cuss us in a whole sentence of proverbs.
Oh my gosh, it's so
So you
funny.
know what
No, literally,
yeah,
I was talking to my brother the other day about it, because he was talking about how Nigerians do that. We just use fanciful words to be cussing us out, the parents, that we're using all these words. Be like, what? Where the hell did you reach this? And I was like, yeah, but the Jamaicans also, the word play. And my cousin, she would be like, she'll just quote these things, these sayings, these proverbs. Like, in any scenario, she's got one. It's like, where? I said, like, you need to make a book. There's like so many of these. But yeah,
actually, Marcus Garvey was a poet.
Yes, I do know he was a poet.
Actually, a poet. Have you got his book?
I mean, like, how can he not be? Just the way he puts words together in a normal speech has to be a poet. I haven't got his poetry though. I do want to add it to my collection. I do want to add it to my collection and get hold of. I'm gonna try and get hold of some. Yeah.
Same. There's bars in that speech. There's bars. Like, one of the bars that was like, I'll rise up when I rise up, and with the countless millions of Africans that died in West Indies, the Americas and Africa. I'm like, whoa, that is just such a line. Like, rise up and come with the countless millions that have died. Like, I'm just like, and look for me in the whirlwinds. Like,
that one.
Yeah, and then there's certain profound things like any leadership that teaches you to rely on another race, the leadership that will enslave you. Any leadership.
He repeats it.
And he repeats
We've been listening to it a lot.
Yeah. Morning. But it's so relevant. That's what hits me. Because we do have leadership that basically teaches us to, and I was saying to Stella earlier, actually, Africa's filled with leaders that teach the people to rely on the IMF or the World Bank. That is a leadership that is cool. We have the same issue in the Caribbean. We have a leadership that is reliant on others, and that is what is enslaving us. So, yeah, I love the speech. Basically, I do. I love it, and I'm enjoying listening.
We were trying to play it before this, but technical difficulties.
Oh, that's a shame.
Again, I mean, it's just worth it. It's just so powerful. Like, there was a time
when I was post the link in the chat so that the listeners can listen to it on time.
Cool, good call.
Yeah, definitely share the resources for sure.
But he he covers so much. He talks about basically seeing God through our own eyes. Yes. As African people, he is awareness of Timbuktu being a center of education and being a place that gave the world Timbuktu, Carthage, Egypt, Kemet, the awareness of it, like of this know thyself was a whole we gave these people stole everything from Africa. So what have we got to be ashamed of? That was one of his points.
Yeah.
Like, is he was like, the other point that stuck out to me was like, you must teach your children the higher sciences. You must teach. You have to teach them.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much instructions that we can still apply and should still be applying with intention, but we're not. And this is the thing. I mean, there should be a whole curriculum of some of the things, principles that he's taught in terms of like teaching your children higher sciences as standards, you know?
Standard, it should be standard. It should be.
Yeah.
And for us as well, it's not just that a lot of us, we were who were driven in that way by our parents. It was basically so we could get a good job, right?
Yeah, and you just enter their institutions and
integrate into the establishment. This is the way it's set up. This is a status quo has been running for the benefit of a small minority for centuries, and they want to keep churning the machine.
Yeah.
Just join, you give birth and you put them on the conveyor belt and the cycle continues.
Yeah, and it continues and continues. Like we were saying earlier when we first started about Winnie Mandela not being taught in South African schools, like, and then to get to a point where Rainbow Nation is being so celebrated that you have that issue that happened to do with the conflict about a Nigerian father and a Zambian, is it Zambian? Mozambican mother is not qualification to be, you know, a South African entrant.
Even though she was born and bred in South Africa. Did you hear about her? Miss South Africa?
Say again?
Did you hear about Miss South Africa?
That she wasn't African.
She was African.
Well, she was born in Africa.
She was born in South Africa.
But she's not biologically African. That one.
No, she is actually the one that they just made. She couldn't do the competition. Because she was half Nigerian. Her parent is her dad is Nigerian and her mum is Mozambican. And in the process, she was born there. She was born in South Africa. So the racist media, and actually what I really want to emphasize this point, that the algorithms have been doing this divide and conquer thing for years.
I kind of get it though. Was it a beauty contest?
Yes, but listen,
I kind of get it.
You won't agree once you know that the winner, when you see who the winner was.
This is what I'm thinking. The winner was she a European woman? Okay, so I'm on the right track, because I remember there was a Miss South Africa who won, and she wasn't South African, but she was born there, and I remember it being a European person.
Yeah. So before she won, there was an African, beautiful half Nigerian, half Mozambican.
Right.
They made this big fuss, and they were like, "She's got to go." And she had to come out of it. She was bullied online. They went and investigated her parents, said, "Oh, she's not even a real nationalist here. She was actually Mozambican." They revealed her papers and stuff like that.
Okay.
She had to leave the competition, this Nigerian and half Nigerian, half Mozambican, but really fully South African. She was born there, and this Rainbow Nation. But because they just made this big fuss about it, she had to leave. Her mum having falsified papers to get to.
It's actually an ongoing investigation, so it's not actually. But
even so, it was hotting up her family.
It was used as a reason. So basically, it's like if you wanted to enter Miss UK, and the people were saying no, you cannot because your parents is this, but the focus, that's Jamaican, but the focus on her father
being Nigerian,
because there's a xenophobic hatred in South Africa specifically towards Nigerians.
But it's very
everybody else.
It's very, very engineered by the white supremacist machine. So even in the education system, the young ones are not learning their history. They're very modern history about Winnie Mandela, different people. They're having access.
They don't know about them.
They are just born into this, it's Rainbow Nation, it's Rainbow Nation. All of that was so long ago. Apartheid was so long ago. Don't worry about it. So they're living under the white supremacy. They are, the minority are still having the majority benefits in terms of the wealth is distributed amongst. So they have more land, they have more wealth, more the businesses, the corporations, all of that is white owned in South Africa, Zulu Nation. So 2024 still happening, and then you see this white winner of the Miss South Africa. She's okay, it's all right for her to win, but yet this Black African woman, it was a huge thing where they actually made her leave. But it turns out the press and the algorithm is set in that way to create that xenophobia as well. So this they're using these tools to like stir up the hate and engineer it more between the blacks.
Yeah, and with what was basically what eventually forced her out, a white South African government official is the one who said, "Oh, her mum committed identity fraud, identity theft, by taking the identity of another South African woman and giving it to her daughter." And that's how her daughter became a South African nationalist. But it's an investigation, and the investigation happened intense bullying that she was suffering online. So the investigation, no doubt, is going to come out false, because it doesn't even make sense. She's got a Nigerian name, and her last name is Nigerian. How are you going to take that from a South African? Make it make sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, or the long story too short, and now is that what Marcus Mosiah Garvey was on in terms of know thyself and Black African national pride over and above these nation states is the key to our liberation. But even on the continent of Africa, with the mindset not being that, we are still being dominated. I've seen some absurd things on Twitter, you know. I saw this one thing where this woman found it within herself to tweet that the white South Africans do not see themselves as the same as Black South Africans, and it's sad because we are one. Like, we are one. And so the xenophobia is there. They see themselves. So when you have these white European South Africa, the Asian ones, Miss South Africa, winning and back-to-back winning, they would rather that, because they see themselves as one with them, over and above a Black African from elsewhere.
Yeah, man.
What?
Yeah.
But that's not going battle that we're having, and this is what they've stopped. And I just want to read this comment. Carl Dojo said, if M. Garvey or Booker T. W. instead of W.E. Du Bois would have been advisor to Kwame Nkrumah, then Africa would have become an economic success story, just like Black history, unlike what Africa is today.
I mean, it's a strong argument, considering what Booker T. Washington achieved and what Marcus Garvey achieved in terms of economics, building enterprises in the nation. It would make sense.
In that speech that I'm just so obsessed with, Marcus Garvey said that if you go down the line of what W.E. Du Bois is doing in terms of getting the higher education, to basically achieve equality, then you'll be walking from now till kingdom come, or from now into eternity, and it will never happen. And how true is that? We've got so many highly educated amongst us, and we've still not did it. And
because they then they become a part of the establishment. They then go and kind of integrate and merge into even the best doctors from Nigeria. They come and they study here and they stay here. And all the best doctors are here. from other countries because they leave. No, there's a term for it. I can't. I'm too tired, but there's a term for it. I can't remember what it's called.
What, brain drain?
Brain drain.
Drain.
Brain drain. It's called, and that's what it is. And I feel like for a lot of people, the integration into the establishment and the acceptance by the establishment is almost a signal or sign of success for many people as well. It's like you haven't made it unless you get to these certain places and you are part of certain establishments. Studied in the UK or at a UK university, and obviously the UK does have some of the best universities in the world. I get it, but it's like being part of certain establishments and associated with certain things is what is considered making it. You know,
and it's all agreement. When you break it down, these institutions become those reputable places because it's by design. But when you understand how it becomes that way, it's like if we feed all our energy into direction, we can make a new institution, or we can establish our own respectable, reputable thing, and not have to look over it. Because like every single year, for example, to take it to entertainment again, Oscars, we be like, oh, Oscars so white, hashtag. No, they don't give praises to Angela Bassett again. No. And it's like for years, like when that happened that last time, I went back to when the last person won, and it was Halle Berry in 2000, like way back when, or whenever it was. 20
and it was
years.
for that film Monsters Ball. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Come on. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, you know, at a point we have to like kick our own selves.
Yeah.
And this is what Marcus Garvey was saying.
Yeah.
Do for self.
Do for self, because at a point you just gotta keep giving to these institutions and keep being like, yeah, you know, when I grow up, I want to have an Oscar. So, you know, yeah, when are you gonna make your own version of that, which they stole from Patar anyway? That whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patar statue.
By the way,
like, yeah.
By the way, are you gonna go to Tavares Strachan's?
Yes, you are.
Tomorrow.
Well, I was going to, but I remember I was into packed, but halfway through packing by now, and I'm not.
Yes.
So I definitely want to go, because I know if I don't go tomorrow, I'm not gonna get to go. I'm gonna miss it. So I did plan to go today, as you know, but then I had to squeeze my hair in today. So then I plan to go tomorrow, but I thought I would have started packing by now, and I haven't. I still need to go and do a few errands as well. So it really just depends on how my day plans out tomorrow and how much I get done.
When are you getting back?
September. If it'll be finished by then. I know. I only have tomorrow to go and see it.
Okay, me and Nat went today.
Yeah.
And I urge you to find the energy, the spirit, the ways, the means to get to that.
Yeah. When I wake up early tomorrow, I'll do my errands that I need to do, and then start packing. I don't think it'll take me that long to pack, to be fair. I'll start packing, and then depending on what time I finish that, then I'll go down. I'll book a ticket and go down, and maybe catch the last couple of hours of it before it closes. And then it'll still be early enough to come back and do any last bits that I need to do anyway. So that's the plan. But I had a plan today, and obviously look where we are. So yeah. I do intend to, and I do desire to attend it and go. So we'll be, and well, I shall get to experience it, because I missed Into the Black Fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, the one.
The one that she had there. I missed that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to miss this too. I'm gutted.
Yeah, this one is.
Everyone tuned in.
Yeah, go see it.
Go and see that. Like everything we're talking about here is literally what you're about to witness, and it's beyond. You know, when we talk about Imhotep, when we talk about these great minds, and we talk about like the uniqueness of these black gods. Okay.
Yeah. At the Hollywood Gallery until the end of the month.
Go. Basically,
go.
Just go. Make sure and tell everyone.
Go and see Marcus Garvey.
Tell everyone you know to go as well. because basically this is an example of the realization of one's potential. So the potential, we realize that potential. And when we look at the pyramid builders, wow, we did that. If Tavares Strachan was globally known, then we would understand that we built the pyramids. Like, it wouldn't be like, there would be no debate there, because you've got somebody there that's realized his potential on that scale. What he's done is absolutely mind-blowing.
Phenomenal artist. Like, if he was any other race, like, he would be known, like, you know, this is Da Vinci levels, guys, in our time.
But yeah, why he came to mind actually is because what we were just talking about in terms of like, I really, 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 really strongly want to put to our good brothers and sisters, be careful about really inserting yourself up in any of these nations' establishment, because it's not only how they misrepresent us as a whole, it's the way they personally get treated. So Diane Abbott is one who's up in the team, gets badly treated, badly. And there's a depiction by Tavares Strachan of Mary Seacole, and it reminded me of the fact that recently they desecrated her statue.
Yeah, heard about that.
Heard about that?
Nothing. Yeah.
Like, these are people that basically gave their life force to helping this country, and that's how they are treated.
That's how some individuals.
Yeah. But it's not even just about the individuals. Like, why is the media not made a thing of that? When we were tearing that, when they were tearing down their own statues, and some of us in South Africa were tearing down their statues, they made a big thing of it, a big deal. We got to preserve history. We can't, whether we like it or not, it's still history. They desecrate Mary Seacole. Where's BBC's report?
No, it's because they constantly do that, and I think they set up, I don't know, like, people that are just there to do that constantly. Like, all of these revered spaces in America here, they constantly are doing those type of things to them, like sabotaging their statue. There's a plot or a statue in honor of the woman that Nat Turner's wife. You know, they actually murdered her disgustingly as well.
Oh.
I think they opened up her pregnant belly and all sorts of crazy era demon shit. But yeah, they buried her at a certain point, and they're constantly shooting at it and doing all sorts of mess up things to sabotage the area, the burial spot. It's something weird. They're demented.
Guys, I don't have to love you and leave you, because I'm going to get up early tomorrow and try and salvage some hours that I've lost into the organising myself to fly out on Sunday.
Well, yeah, thank you for coming through.
Yes.
Any last words on the month of Mosiah?
He is my fellow lion. So big up Marcus Garvey, the Leo, the lion. He was a lion in so many ways. And, you know, I feel like this month was just, one, it was a busy month, as I said, for myself. So many birthdays, including my own. So many things going on, but Marcus Garvey needs proper study, proper dedicated study. 1 month is not long enough for any of the revolutionary minds, but I feel this is the most for Marcus Garvey. Yeah, I feel like there needs to be like a university course about his teachings, his philosophy, his opinions, his ideas, his principles, and the instructions that he has left. I just feel like we should be really just knowing it like the back of our hand. So that's my last words. You know, we've got Marcus Garvey, the greatest, one of the greatest to have ever lived, and one of the greatest to have died and still live as well.
Beautifully said.
All right, so good night, guys. Good night, everybody watching. And next month we are doing Ida B. Wells next month, right?
Yes.
See you guys next month.
See you next month. Wow.
Power to the people.
Take care. the fantastic Yemaya, the fantastic Blue Lotus in the building. She is traveling out soon, so we will her a safe journey on her trip, her breakaway. But yeah, good insight. And yes, as she said, the powerful leader, inspirer, orator, genius,
organizer,
leader, as I said before, entrepreneur,
journalist.
Yeah, so much depth, so much
Poet.
Inspiration, so much motivation from his words. You know, if you can move people into action, you've got something. And the many of us that we know that have that element about them, I really say big up to you, and I hope, you know, these gifts of yours to move people into action become something, you know, great and powerful that can impact and change and shift this narrative that we've been living in far too long, as an African people, as an African nation. So I've scribbled a few words. Have you scribbled any words?
I've not scribbled any words.
I've scribbled some words, and this is just literally just, there's no meaning to it yet, as in there's meaning, but there's no order or structure yet. So this is what we do after learning. We start to put it to poetry, what we've learned. So we were sat at a restaurant or in a bar somewhere, something, and these words came to me. So, cultivated by the Zulus to come through and combat the carving of the continent, crafted from the poetic visions of Tahuti, Negro Moses, like Harriet Tubman, arrives not in a basket to fight basket cases. So where I'm going with this is I'm putting him in a space of the realm that he comes from and enters into this material realm, because the way he speaks, the philosophies he has, the great poetic mind he has, he's clearly an old soul. He's clearly very tapped in. He's clearly touched by, you know, the source in a direct way to be able to do this big thing that he goes on to do. And Yemaya mentioned his star sign is a Leo. I think that, obviously I'm not the expert with astrology and all of that stuff, but there's the planetary alignments and all of that of when he enters is what I'm tapping into in terms of like what was the message that he came through with in terms of purpose, and you know, how was that then materialized. And the reason why I mentioned Zulus, even though he's not linked to the Zulus, is there's an energy that I'm tapping into of their warrior fight, their aggressive warrior fight and self-belief. Particularly you talk of Shaka Zulu, but that time period, the Boers and all these people, they suffered. They had to. There was a lot of fight. They had to fight back, you know, to get to this point that we're talking about. South Africa has come up a lot today, actually. So I've got to look into that.
Well,
but topical. The resistance was huge, you know, and I feel that energy is in Marcus Garvey in that, but on the tongue. It was like, well, not with the physical, you know, fighting with the knives or the spears or whatever. It was actually the spear was the tongue, and the passion and the voice, the lion roar. He has that lion roar. You know, who else has that lion roar? It's in theatrical tone is KRS-One. His huge theatre booming voice, like
it's got a boom.
Yeah, but yeah, that lion roar is something that Garvey
had in abundance. And I know you're saying about the Zulus, but actually it's important to note that African resistance was all over the continent, with fierce African resistance. When recently when I came across the Ashantis, they defeated the British 7 times before eventually falling. Like 7 times. There's fierce resistance there. Marcus Garvey, in his speech, also references Toussaint Louverture.
Yeah.
So he's aware of the Haitians. The Haitians obviously could not be defeated militarily. You have the Maroons as well. I'm not sure if his lineage takes him back to the Maroons, but Queen Nanny of the Maroons, we know that the British could not defeat her either. So he does have the might of Africans, of who we actually are in our soul and in our spirit, not the ones that have been over publicized, or the ones that showcase us as just a passive people that are basically subject to the whims of Europeans. So it's all about the mind. It's all about the mind. And in that same said speech, Marcus Garvey talks about the power of the mind, and with our intelligence is where we can liberate ourselves and get to our rightful position in this planet. With our minds, the mind is everything. Our collective mind is literally our existence. Without our mind clicked on is why we are where we are. Africa is sleeping.
So I big up to all of the people, the teachers out there who are teaching young people to know thyself. You're teaching even the elders that are coming up and waking up as well, you know, doing courses in history. But yeah, the Pan-African schools, the Saturday schools, big up to them, because you're raising young people to grow in their self-knowledge. And that is just cannot be downplayed. You know, you can't give that the credence. That's all that we need. We need everyone educated in themselves. Their self-knowledge needs to be up there. That's how I brought up the South African thing. The reason why it keeps coming up is because in Africa itself, people are having to fight for Black history, which is it's insane, you know, and because there's a culture in the sense of food and some aspects of tradition. I'm speaking as a Nigerian. The homogenous idea of Nigeria is like, oh, jollof rice, you know, it's like broken down to food. Eba, we eat this and we do that and we're funny and blah blah blah. But it's like, okay, but what about our rites of passage time, that the traditions we used to do? Why did we do that? What about traditional marriages or traditional funerals? It wasn't just, oh, we just go and buy a whole bunch of alcohol and it's just, you know, just, oh, we present this person. But why? What is the ritual about? What does it mean? And that is being lost. And we educate and we look up to the westernized version of the education. For what purpose? This only just feeds into the corporations being kept alive, the ones that keep raping from the land. So now we're participating in our own death, our own murder, by aspiring to, you know, have these jobs within these establishments for a money that also doesn't come from us. It's not a cowrie history there. It's paper IOU in, you know, in banks that are associated with the European banks. So it's insane. We need to have that self-knowledge first. And I feel that's probably why, and possibly why, the diaspora is needed, for that outrospective, that look in. And it's like a two-way thing that needs to happen, all the way back in Marcus's time, where he's trying to connect to Africa. You see how W.E. Du Bois and whoever else was able to go in and affect the outcome of that. And it's like, surely the president himself could have had something in him, like the old former Gambian president who they got rid of, who was on it with the history. Jamwa. He was on it with the history. You know, even Gaddafi was on it with the history. It's something, when you know your history, when you know yourself and stuff, it's a whole different level of like, right, this is what I'm supposed to do. I don't care about anything else as long as we get this done. And yeah, I feel like the children is where it starts. So big up to all of the Saturday schools, all the people that are teaching the Pan-African lessons to the young people and keeping that energy going, and teaching the elders so that they can teach their children. It's important, and I big up all of you that are doing that works.
Absolutely, I concur. And all of us that are uplifting and enlightening our people on a daily basis for the purpose of the liberation of Africa and her children.
Yeah.
And as a few comments have said, Garvey lives on, and the best way to honor such a great is to actually live out his words. That be black, think black, and buy
black, and all else will take care of itself.
Facts. That's all it takes.
You have that one for free.
That's all it takes. That same speech, it's you know, we're basically saying Marcus Garvey had a vision. He had the black print laid out, and we just basically have to enact it. We have to enact it. We have to make it happen. Carl Dojo, give thanks for your contributions. He says, read the book Negro with a Hat, The Rise and Fall of Marcus Garvey by Colin Grant, and Message to the People, The Course of African Philosophy by Marcus Garvey to truly appreciate the mind of Marcus Garvey.
We've got some other recommendations I'm going to add to that from Brother Shakara.
Haru, respect for your contribution. Race First by Tony Martin, Marcus Garvey and the Vision of Africa by John Henrik Clark as well. We mentioned at the beginning the writer Nzinga Asata. She will be coming as a panelist to the event next Wednesday at the Africa Centre. So if you can book your tickets on Shubs. Shubs is a black-owned ticket provider. So just type in shubs.com and look for the event next Wednesday at the Africa Centre. It's a panel discussion looking at the importance of her story. And Nzinga Asata is writer of Women in the Garvey Movement. A recommended book there for you. Also another one recommended by Brother Shakara in terms of looking at the women who are also a part of this narrative. So we mentioned earlier Amy Ashwood Garvey, the first wife of Marcus Garvey, Amy Ashwood Garvey by Tony Martin. It's a book that is a bit controversial, but it's something that people can read. Another book he mentioned is Veiled Garvey, The Life and Times of Amy Jacks Garvey. And that one there is by, who's this by? Wow, £98. Eula Yvette Taylor. So that one there is by Eula Yvette Taylor. There's so many books. Obviously the poetry books as well to read. I believe Julius is also quite philosophical. When I saw him in the interview, he was quoting a lot of poetry and all of that, which is just very, very important part of the Know Thyself message. You know, tapping into that higher genius self part of yourself, creating, doing art, tapping into the inner child, allowing that to be free. Yeah, a lot of history, a lot of knowledge to be shared. So grateful that you came through, family. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, Nat, and talk on Marcus, the Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey in this Mosiah month, representing the Garvey Village Poets, the Revolutionary Minds Project, and under the banner of Out of Noise on Kimbunga Media.
Kimbunga Media. Kimbunga means whirlwind. So we see what Shakara was doing there with that. This is a very powerful movement, a very powerful platform. We're very honoured to be able to share with you on this platform in particular.
yeah, so big up for everyone and their contribution. Big up family.
If you're free, come on.
Come to Auntie Jean's African Culture Market this Sunday at St Andrew's Church. There, right here is in Broccoli. They're right there from 2 to 8 p.m. So St Andrew's Church, Broccoli, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Auntie Jean's African Culture Market. And basically, there right there, you've got at Stella Belgam, at S Belgam, if you want to find out information about Stella's exhibition, including the event that she mentioned just a moment ago, which is coming up this Wednesday. So yeah, there you have it, S Belgam for that. And yeah, Garvey lives.
Mosiah lives.
Garvey lives.
Mosiah lives.
Tomorrow, actually, if you're seeing us here right now, there is Sankofa Day that will be held in Trafalgar Square, which is 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And then afterwards, from 5 p.m. until you have the Mosiah drum call, which is led by Shakara.
Come on.
Windrush in Windrush Brixton. God, no, why is that?
I'm making the
Yeah.
Yeah. And this one. Come on. Took the things.
That's it. So yeah, experience that and more. Djembe drumming, etc. Windrush Square, Brixton, 5 on the Mosiah drum call.
Ashe. So yeah, give thanks, family. We will see you next month for another edition, as Yemayan mentioned, with covering Ida B. Wells, who was affiliated with the Garvey movement, and fought against the Jim Crow laws by talking about what the killings and the lynchings that were going on. As a journalist and highlighting these stories, she put her life in danger at a time where you were having things like the Tulsa, Oklahoma bombings. The first ever bomb to be dropped in American soil was on Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm sorry, I talk and it seems like I'm making light, but these are very serious issues that we're talking about.
But yeah, we will realize Marcus Mosiah Garvey's vision of a United States of Africa and the liberation of African.
We shall. Can we do it?
We can do it. We are going to do it. Like, we are going to do it.
We shall do it.
So we shall do it. So we will make it happen.
Otherwise, we will die.
Yeah, and we're not going to die. Yeah. Africa's.
And if we die, we'll come back in a whirlwind, then we'll.
Africa
blow up the whole thing.
Is not dead. It's just sleeping, and we are waking up. And so we will make it happen. That's it.
Give thanks, family. Peace, blessings, and
powers.